Welcome to Kathy'sRight.com, the pit stop for the American patriot. It's time to refuel the conservative mind and heart with me, Kathy Hatch, as your host. When conservatives are surrounded by liberals, the mind and the heart can become exhausted. In these surreal times, we could all use a little refueling and retooling, if you will. We all can see what's going on around our country right now, and we are neither blind nor naive. Some of us choose to remain silent rather than add to the obvious chaos that the Democrats are so hell-bent on continuing. We want to live in peace and prosperity, but not at the cost of losing our freedom. We thought and believed that that price had already been paid by our ancestors and forefathers, by their blood, sweat, and tears. But domestic anarchists and Marxists entered the picture. No, they didn't sneak into our country. They were born and raised here under our very own noses. They were formed and trained, if you will, in insidious ways through our primary school system, and then radicalized in many ways, particularly in the higher education realm. They were radicalized by communist professors. I remember, I had them. They were told almost the first day of college, some people the first month, that there was no God. One of the first classes that I took in college was a class on existentialism, which basically is saying there is no God. And nowadays, they use that word existential as an adjective. Back in the day, it was a philosophy. Our young people were taught that there is nothing more important in the world than the world, the earth. Rather than thanking God for all that we have, our young people began to thank the earth. Everything in their life began to center on being respectful of the earth, cherishing the earth, honoring the earth. All of those things that we owe to God were transfixed into the earth by Marxist, communist teachers. Our young people, many of whom lost their virginity their first year of college because they learned so quickly. They didn't care anymore about offending God, and many became promiscuous. I knew many women, young women, that I went to college with who had abortions. It was very common. I was very sad, even though at the time I really believed that I was pro-choice. I clearly changed my mind. People do. And so environmentalism became their religion, and their God became the earth. All of that trickled down into primary schools, into curriculums. Because you see, after all, educated people would soon become our teachers and our children's teachers. They themselves had already been indoctrinated, some unwittingly, but many knew what they were doing at the time. They took prayers out of the schools and replaced it with sex education and social studies. And then later, everyone wondered why there was so much fatherlessness and racial strife. I mean, didn't we know any better after all that education? I think we knew. I think we kind of did. I believe we all now know where babies come from, and we know what color we are. Alas, they'll probably do a study looking into it, as Democrats tend to do. $1 million studies, millions of dollars later, just my musings for today. So today we have a special guest. She is author Janice L. Ponds. She's been here before, and I just think she's a remarkable human being. A fellow patriot who passionately loves God and this great country, and she shoots really well too. I've seen the videos. She's also shooting from the hip with us today. She recently sang the national anthem right next to the Lincoln Memorial, and it touched many hearts. I shared the video. It touched my heart. I cried, and I rarely cry. Welcome, please, fellow patriot, All-American, Janice Ponds.
They know nothing.
You people are way off base, and you're losing people. You're losing people. So I know you are, and I am, and millions are very excited about the election that's coming up, because I really believe that there are some closet supporters of the president, because they've just seen my son, who's 30 years old. He said he had two friends of me in the same age range, and they would consider themselves liberal. And they said, man, you're the only one I'm telling, but I'm telling you, I am voting for President Trump. They're like, I'm liberal, but I'm not like those people.
Exactly.
I'm not like that. So
nobody wants to be associated with that. Really, I say every brick that goes through a store window, a Republican is born.
That's a good way to put it, because we don't align with that. That's not what we align with in terms of tearing things down, burning businesses down. All those, 30-something people were shot, killed, maimed. It goes on and on. And a lot of those people were Black Americans. And oh wow, Black Lives Matter isn't saying anything about it. Antifa certainly hadn't said anything about it. So who killed those people? Who killed our fellow Americans? That there is no accountability, because they were ambushed, they were targeted, they were taken down. And we don't align ourselves with those types of agendas. We don't align ourselves with those types of people. And, people say, well, Black Lives Matter didn't do it. Well, why didn't they denounce it?
They didn't.
Why didn't they denounce it? I saw Democratic leaders, that guy in Kenosha. He was in Kenosha, he was running for the Congress. And I mean, that guy was way out there, violent, had an effigy of the police chiefs, police chiefs, wife and himself, and they're standing in the man's driveway beating this thing with no mercy, and cussing, and little teenage girls. It was horrible. And he thought that he could do that. Well, people totally withdrew their support of him. And these people were Democrats, and they're like, we don't want to have anything to do with you. And they're supporting President Trump. Plus the 10,000 member police, some organization, police force.
The police unions for sure are on Trump's side. The police unions for sure. I think that when the Democratic Party had their convention, it sealed it for a lot of people, because they didn't even bring it up.
They didn't bring it up, and even in the presidential debate, Kathy, if you recall, last week before last, President Trump asked Joe Biden, hey, name one law enforcement organization that's backing you. He had no response.
No.
And
not even the people in his ear had a response. because he was being very much coached. I've done lots of debates, and that was my thing to do. And he was baiting Trump. And when I read the transcripts, I was saying it right out loud when it was happening, because when they if they know your weak spot, they'll bait you for it. And now Trump is known for, if you strike him hard, he's going to come back harder. So that is why they had Joe call him a clown and say, because they thought he was going to come back and say, you so-and-so. That's why he said shut up, because they thought he was going to come back and say something worse, because that's what he's known for. But he did not buy that bait, which I thought that was very smart of him, because I knew it was bait, because he did it like incrementally. He didn't plan that. Somebody was telling him, okay, now make sure you say something. They were trying to rile him up so that they would throw him off his game. But the thing is, it didn't work. It was a horrible, horrible debate, because it had a horrible, horrible moderator, and Joe Biden is a horrible, horrible candidate. But the thing is, Trump was prepared. But when you're debating the moderator and this guy over here who's calling you names, trying to get you to say something vile, so that the next day that would be the news item.
Yeah.
That was what they were going for. It was so obvious, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad he didn't fall for that, because when I debated, they would say something personal. It didn't matter what color they were or whatever. They would find something, like if they were bigger than me, they'd say, oh, you're a skinny girl, If they were littler than me, they would say, oh, they'd find something to throw in, just a little bit of dig that's very unprofessional and not like, it's not within the rules of the debate, but they all cheat. They all go over time. But that's what they do. They bait you. And that's what they were doing with our president that last debate.
Absolutely. It's a part of the making him a scapegoat. And you and I have talked about that, of course.
Yes.
The book that God put on my heart to write. Now you got yours. The scapegoat. And I mean, isn't he the scapegoat of America?
Yes, he is. He gets blamed for everything. First, now he's getting blamed for the people who died for the corona. He didn't invent the corona. He didn't bring it over from China. They were all, while he was trying to stop people from coming from China, Nancy Pelosi was in Chinatown saying, oh, everybody, come on. It's not dangerous. Let's go eat. Let's go eat the restaurants. And now she's acting like he didn't do enough. And he was standing right in front of her, announcing about the coronavirus right before she tore up his speech at the State of the Union.
Wow.
That, to me, that same speech, I watched it over and I'm like, oh, that's the same speech. Yeah, he brought up the coronavirus. He called it the Chinese virus, and that it was coming. And they're saying he didn't warn you. He did it in Congress.
He did it in Congress, and back in January, we know that he was implementing guidelines and barriers and addressing it. And so to see Joe Biden stand at in the debate and said, he looking at the camera telling us he did nothing.
Yeah.
He did nothing. Just like Barack Hussein Obama stated at the Democratic National Convention. He said, Trump has done no work. Just no work. And it's like, wow, what an absolute insult of intelligence. And this is why I
insulted all of our intelligence. He acted like, it's like that's a typical Democrat ploy. They're telling you, you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. Let me tell you what you're seeing. You're not hearing what you're really hearing. That sounds devilish to me, because that's the kind of deception, that's because they do that on The View. They do that all the time. They'll be standing in front of a fire saying, this is a peaceful protest. So you're not really seeing those buildings behind me burn down. No, these are really peaceful people back here.
Yeah, it's an absolute insult of our intelligence.
Totally.
And with them targeting, like a Tommy Hawk missile, an absolute assault on our intelligence, I always encourage people, listen, just be intellectually honest. Forget about race, forget about all this. Listen and examine the facts, look at policies. Of course, there's an effort to particularly, and it always has been this way. I mean, I grew up in Jim Crow. I've seen it. I've lived it. There's been a specific targeting of Black Americans to get us riled up in emotionalism, and making decisions based on being misinformed, lied to, deceived, and
they want to keep us constantly angry.
And what I say, it came out of me one day, and it was like, excuse me, it's the absolute truth. Listen, Black people in America, Black Americans have been specifically targeted with so many lies, so much deception. It goes back to slavery, it goes back, but it's really prevalent now. So if Black people have been lied to, America has been lied to.
Yes.
So with this whole Black Lives Matter and all of this chaos that we saw, listen, George Floyd, that entire situation, we know that was horrible, horrific, but that got hijacked. And so what they ended up,
I think they were looking for something, because we're all in our house. Anything could have happened. They would have blown it up. He was just a convenient victim. You know, he was convenient for them because they were already ready. They were poised for their across the country riots. They were paid for. I believe so, for sure. They were organized. They had the same signs, you know, in the riots in Minneapolis as they did in New York. You know, the same signs. They were all coordinated. And you are right about the information. I mean, going all the way back, if you control the information, you control the people. Remember when they didn't allow Black slaves to learn to read? Why? Because if we knew something, if we knew better, we could do better. They're still controlling the information through mainstream media, only they're controlling a whole bunch more people. And that's why we have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not scrupulous, it's at the tip of my tongue. But we have to be more in tune and learn to decipher. I think it helps for you and I, and hopefully a whole lot of other people, it helps that we have a relationship with God. Because before I really got closer to God, I was the biggest, you know, I was an easy mark, you know, for a lot of people tricking you and telling you lies, and you believe every little thing that they said. I used to be pro-choice. I mean, that was disgusting as a Catholic to be pro-choice. And I didn't know what that was. I remember my sister crying when I told her that she cried. She's like, Kathy, you can't believe that. That's, you know, she saw the evil in it. I had no idea. I'd never seen an ultrasound. I'd never had I was completely never inexperienced. I was completely inexperienced in everything, but I thought I knew. And then
absolutely.
And when I learned better, then I'm still embarrassed that I ever was. You know, I'm still embarrassed because I could have helped people. When I was going to UT, half of the girls in my dormitory had an abortion. You know?
Well, Kathy, I was a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat as well. And those experiences God can use. I have a heart of compassion for people that I see that are so grossly deceived. I understand. I used to be just like them. I used to be, when I grew up in Jim Crow, everything was about being Black, about race, about who you went to church with, who you interacted with, who your friends were. And it was one thing that just kept me from hooking up with it, hook, line, and sinker, was, I was taught to mistrust white people. You can't trust them. You can't trust them. But I was just like, the Holy Spirit kept telling me, and he was dealing with me at a young age, all white people can't be bad. They just all can't be bad. And he used the vehicle of integration to allow me to experience some of the most amazing, heartfelt, genuine, powerful, life-changing relationships I could ever have. And they were with white girls. Well, see, I grew up and it was the Black was just separate and not equal. We were separate. Schools, everything, And so I realized that I came to realize later that the enemy was trying to target me for me to be a racist, for me to be bona fide, hardcore racist. And I was well on my way, but I just couldn't hook up in my heart. And when I had those amazing relationships, God opened up my eyes even further. And then I just remember just absolutely denouncing racism. I want no part of it. And God asked you to teach me, love them through me, love everybody through me. I just want to be who you call me to be. And of course, growing up, you have bumps and you have barriers and you fall, you get up. And as we get older, we should make more willful decisions, particularly as people of faith, that we will partner with God's plan for humanity. For example, when President Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19 last week, if you, and I said this, I've been saying it for days, and I'll say it one more time. If there is anything within you that wished him to get worse, and our pastors were talking about him dying, I mean, like, you are in dangerous, dark trouble. And if you don't have compassion that is stirred up within you, something is wrong. You need to stop and start over. You might need to get born again. If you're saying you're Christian, because if you don't have the compassion of Jesus stirring within you when anybody gets sick, I don't wish harm on anybody, no Democrat, no anybody, someone that even would consider me their enemy. First of all, I know what the position of the word is. I'm to pray for those that spitefully persecute you. We know what the word says, but we're supposed to be moved with compassion. And I'm telling you what, I really believe even in the midst of that God used that situation and continues to use that situation to help people to locate themselves. That's something that I say a lot. People get to going, and I just say, you just located yourself. You know, it's just so much hatred, bitterness, offense, and just stay there. And I know people that I grew up with, and they're still there.
Yeah.
They're still there. It's going on 50 years ago. Like, wow, guys.
Some of my old friends too, and they're I mean, my oldest friend since second grade, she's a godmother of two of my kids, still just despises Trump. But the good thing is, and what I'm noticing, because she'll never admit she was wrong about being a Democrat, never. But the thing is, when you go on, look at what she writes, she doesn't write anything about how much she likes Biden, can't wait for Biden to be the president, nothing like that, only hate Trump. And then I go on my old professor, who's practically a communist, I'm pretty much sure he is. I check out his timeline. I don't comment. I just want to see what they're saying. And he's still a communist, but like her, but he's still mad that Bernie didn't win. This is a grown man. Why would a grown-up want Bernie to win? I mean, I guess he's a dyed-in-the-wool communist, but nothing positive about Biden. Nobody says, I can't wait for him to be president, because they know what we know. They're just all pretending.
Yeah. Well, you know, Kathy, as we wrap up this interview and as we move forward in this election cycle, it's just important I'm learning to walk in love and just speak the truth. To educate, to inform, and to empower. And and I just say, hey, you might need this information later. Put it on the shelf. You may need it later. I'm not going to be disrespectful to you.
No.
I will practice healthy boundaries of related to those who are committed to evil and being offended. And if they are harmful, I will set a healthy boundary. A healthy boundary with them. I will not go to a church that perpetrates hate.
No.
I will not align myself with people who say that they're Christians and perpetrate purity hatred. Just hatred is one thing to disagree. We can disagree. And listen, everybody's policies are wide open for discussion. Just because, and see, this is where they get tripped out with me sometimes, because I deal with policies and just putting the truth out there. And provoking thought. But see, so I'm not downing people. I mean, when I got on social media, I had written my first book in 2008, and my publicist said, "You have to get on Facebook." I was like, "I'm not getting on Facebook. I don't want to do that." And so she was like, "You have to get on Facebook, because this is where people exchange ideas and views, and the platform that God has given you. You need to be on there." And so I did, and so I never attacked Obama. I talked about his policies. I dissected his policies, and people would interpret that as, well, you always attacking Obama. No, I don't. I haven't attacked him as a man.
I never disliked somebody because they supported them. But that's not how they treat me back. I mean, I never like, oh, you're for Obama, we can't be friends. The opposite is not happening.
Absolutely. Well, see, I had committed that I was going to be Obama's most vocal supporter if the biggest two-letter word in the English language, if he would just do the right thing. If he would just do the right thing, the first thing he did was to repeal the Mexico City policy. So all of a sudden, our taxpayer dollars were paying for abortion overseas. I was like, oh my gosh. And so it just began to unfold from there. And I was like, okay, wow. And well, Henry Kissinger himself said that Obama, he was a perfect person for ushering in to another level, the New World Order. What did that mean? What did that mean? And actually, that is in the book about Barack Hussein Obama and the New World Order.
I'm just learning about that this last few years. This is like
that's one of the chapter titles in the book, The Scapegoat. And then all I'm doing is looking at facts and exactly what he did. What were his policies? What were those czars doing? And then, as you know, many other things are covered in here. Yeah. So I
really wanted him to succeed, though. I didn't vote for him, but I thought, well, since he won, I kind of felt good because at least my sons could see a Black president, And then the first thing, my son had just joined the Air Force, and they started taking away some of the promises that they made when he signed up because of Obama's policies. And he was mad. He goes, Mom, I really wanted to, be with him. But after what he went through, and then, of course, he backtracked on a lot of it because it would have become more public and people would have said something. But he did break promises to the soldiers his first 2 years in office.
Okay, stop right there. No, we have to go there. My son, I'm a Blue Star mom, right, as well. But let me tell you, one thing that he did is well researched. It's in here. If you recall reading it, he cut the military by $700 billion. $700 billion. And after he had done a particular cutting, Robert Gates, he just resigned. He's like, I can't be a part of this. But cut it by $700 billion. And here's something that's really big: the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement with our troops. I'm a clinician. I've encountered veterans personally that were weeping and yelling vehemently as they wailed about the rules of engagement that Obama put strapped upon them, as that our soldiers just senselessly died because the rules of engagement were that you couldn't shoot at the enemy unless they shot at you first, and you couldn't shoot them above the waist. So our boys were like they were like sitting ducks. And so what we've been over there in that war 19 years. No, Obama didn't put us over there, but we should have been home. That thing should have been ended. And so President Trump is getting them home, getting more and more of them home. And he doesn't play. So the military has been rebuilt. They've gotten a raise. It isn't being cut. And so when you have a commander in chief that cuts the military by $700 billion, he did things that were, there was a specific targeting of our military personnel that were people of faith. They couldn't have a scripture on their desks.
I remember that.
Bibles on their desk. It was just, it went on and on and on and on and on. That's someone that's an enemy of the cross. That's someone that's an enemy of the cross. And so, you know, you just got to pay attention. So, I mean, I wasn't against him, but I was just like, what do you mean they can't have a scripture on their desk? What do you mean they can't have scripture inside their locker? What do you mean they can't be on a base with a gun on the head? It just goes, it went
He
on.
weakened them. He weakened them. He cut them off at the knees as far as what they were able to do to protect themselves. That is absurd.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it's those kind of things that we need to pay attention to. You just have to pay attention. And so that's what I'm about. Provoking thought. Encouraging us to really look at facts, look at policies. And we know that President Trump has done more in terms of his policies for Black Americans than any president in modern times we know about. And people don't know about it. I asked my aunt. She was like, girl, I don't know nothing. He didn't do none of that. No, girl, he didn't do that. I said, yes, he did, Aunt Eliza. He, you know, the funding provided permanent funding for more funding and permanent funding for HBCUs than any president in the nation. We know about the unemployment that had gotten down as low as it did, and the prison reform and the second chance hiring and the over 9,000 opportunity zones. And a lot of people don't talk about this. He had a specific, the Support Act, which addressed the opiate epidemic in our nation. That has ravaged the Black community. That's ravaged our nation, the opiate epidemic. But there were billions of dollars in that. We don't even talk about it. They don't even put a focus on that. The human trafficking and the children.
All these children have been
on. Yeah, it just goes on and on and on and on about policies. They will not talk about it on mainstream media. The question is why? Why? Why do they not want us to know that? Why don't they want us to know his accomplishments? Why aren't
they celebrating his accomplishments? Because they're supposed to be Americans.
Well, yeah, but see, so why would Barack Obama stand before the entire world and say, he's done nothing? He's done nothing. You bona fide liar. That's a bona fide liar. It's a bona fide lie. And so, you know, why are you going to be intellectually dishonest like that? So, see, those kinds of things, I call those kind of things drawing the line of demarcation in the sand.
Yes.
In the sand. And then when I look at, you've done this, this, and this, and this, and as a Christian, I look at what his position is with Israel, his position with pro-life. So, well, Trump just saying he pro-life. He's not pro-life. Yes, he is pro-life.
Yes, he is.
He pro-choice. And then he talked about his friend. He had a couple that were pregnant and they were going to get an abortion. And he said, then they decided that they were going to have the baby. And as he says, you know how he is. He said, and the kid became a star. He said, this person actually became just like a rock star. He's just an amazing individual. He said that right there was where he changed his mind and became pro-life. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. It's just facts. You just got to read. And, you know, all this stuff about racism and all this. He has before he even ran for president, he was reaching, he wrote a check to a nursing home. And I think it was a nursing home in Queens, New York. Just took care of the needs there. Gave some Black gentleman that saved a woman from committing suicide, gave him a $10,000 check. We know what he did with Jennifer Hudson. I've seen the video. Go on YouTube and type in Jesse Jackson praising Donald Trump. And where he and Al Sharpton and all of them, they were just praising him for the wonderful things he had done specifically for the African American community. And it just goes on and on. We've seen the pictures, he's gotten awards, and then all of a sudden he's racist. And since we talk about racism, the stuff they said about Charlottesville, bona fide lie. He did not say that there were fine people on both sides and about the white supremacists. He was talking about the people that were wanting the statues, that we're talking about statues staying up. And so, I mean, they still grappling about that 2 years, 3 years after he said there are fine people on both sides about the statues, They
know that. They know that.
You got people tearing down statues of Frederick Douglass? Come on.
That's
and then when he said what they said, Lincoln is next, he said, oh no, I'm doing an executive order. I'm doing an executive order. So I say to all that, Kathy, to God be the glory.
Yes.
To God be the glory.
I thank God for Trump. I really do. I'm like, I feel as though he made him for this job. And the fact that people are saying, oh, well, he never served in the military. Well, he's serving now in the military. He's taking slings and arrows every single day. Every single day, from all the media, all the left, and all the hateful vitriol his families had to go through. It's ridiculous. I pray for him. He's the best president in my lifetime. The best.
Mine as well.
And I
have said under 12 different presidents, and I will boldly stand. That man is as imperfect as he is. He is the best president in my lifetime. And I'll give anybody the benefit of the doubt if they'll try to do the right thing. And he has such a list of accomplishments, of actions. You know, I miss it with what I say. So I'll give anybody the benefit of the action. And I'm more interested in what you do and the pattern of what you do more than what you say. And as you grow and mature, it will affect what you say. And so I address all of this, Kathy. You're
very inspiring. I just love talking with you and reading.
I encourage everybody to go to www.janiceponds.com.
On my credits too.
You're gonna put it up, okay? Yeah.
Janice. Labels when I go to produce, I have it all written down. But I do need the www. Is that on the book?
Yeah, you got to put www.janiceponds.com, JANICEPONDS, and the book comes in paperback. It comes in ebook, paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And of course, you can avail yourself to, Joe Biden. Here's my response to Joe, Mr. Joe, telling us we ain't black. Well, here's the song, You Ain't Black. God downloaded that song in me, You Ain't Black. And then on my website, there are other songs there as well that God gave me. Military Mother's Prayer, You Ain't Black, Free Thinkers. And I'm going to also put another song on there here real soon called Lord You're Holy. I'm going to put that on there.
Sometime I might play one of my podcasts and people can hear it.
Absolutely. Go for it. Put it on there.
You have to have permission, nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to do that because I'm always trying to mix it up a little bit instead of having just me talk. You got to mix it up. Yeah, that's how you keep your audience, and that's how you keep people entertained. I'm not an entertainer, but I don't get easily bored, but boring people bore me. So, but you never, ever, not for one iota of a second, have ever bored me. Not your writing, not talking, not listening to you. And I feel so honored that I got to talk to you that first time that we were on the show, the Black Conservative Female. I couldn't even say anything. I was like, I'm talking to Janice.
Well, we were talking together. And so, Kathy, what we're going to keep doing is talking, even those that we disagree with, we're going to talk with and to them and not at them. Yes. We need to be talking to and with each other as Americans and not at each other. And, I'm telling you, really, I've seen gatherings where I've seen signs that says Democrats for Trump, because really we're down to this is about truth versus light. Deception versus truth. Destruction versus building up.
Yes.
Light versus darkness. Satan versus God. We've read the end of the book. Yeah. And in the meantime, there will be a battle. But he says that we're to occupy until he comes. I address so much in here. I come from the spiritual, the social, the political. We need to be speaking the truth. And so that was my endeavor here in the Scapegoat. I really want to encourage people to get this before the election and get as many people as you can.
They will have the facts. They will know exactly what's going on. There's some things that I would love to recommend to you sometime, but right now you don't have time because it's a bunch of stuff. But it's just like there's so much going on that on a spiritual level in this country that I'm terrified for our children that they're being taught some of the watered down Christianity, that they're getting. That's why those kids are out on the streets. They don't have any Christianity. They don't have any respect for other people or other people's things, or they don't have that. And I think the reason that I have it and my kids are not out there doing that is because they were raised in a Christian home.
Kathy, all the more reason we have answers. We speak truth to power, and I'm really endeavoring to focus on solutions. And you know that from in here, that's my angle. We've got to. We have to identify the problem, but we also have to speak the solutions. There's a lot of identification in here, a lot of history, but there's a lot of solutions in here as well. And so I so much appreciate you.
Sorry? It would be a great Christmas present for conservative parents to give their kids.
Oh my, one lady, she said, oh my God, this needs to be in all the high school classes.
Yes.
And they need to read it because it gives a history. I mean, you've read it. God just, it's amazing how it came together. A lot of research was been done. And what it does is inform people. I tell people, listen, you get informed and then you make a decision, but you want to make sure that you have the information. And so what we want to do is continue to speak truth to power. I'm not here to tear anybody down. I will pray for my fellow Americans. I love people. And it's not about you a Democrat and I can't stand you and I'm going to be offended. That is not God, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. I will empower myself to support and love this country because it's God, family, country, and Trump. That's what Lucretia Hughes says, that God, family, country, and Trump. Because somebody got to lead it. And I don't want Kamala Harris being my president.
Oh gosh, no.
I don't want Biden. And so it's just and I'm gonna say it. I'm putting it out there. And so you got to make a decision, and it's all based upon policies, policies, platforms, agendas.
I'm
America
glad
first.
You talked about your Christian foundation because that is, I think it's pivotal it's pivotal in my life. But I think a lot of people don't want to talk about politics and religion. We were told not to talk about growing up. But I think if you read the Bible, it is all politics and religion.
It's all in there. It's all in there. You can't get away from it.
Herod, Pontius Pilate, they were politicians,
Absolutely.
It's always been. So that's something we should learn how to talk about it rather than just.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Kathy, I've got another interview.
Well, I hope you can come on again sometime.
Let's do it again. We'll keep talking. Let's stay connected.
Oh, I love it. I love to stay in touch.
All righty.
So much from you.
Oh, you're a blessing. I appreciate you. Let's stick together. Let's pray for each other.
Amen.
Pray for our fellow Americans. Of course, pray for our president. And let's proclaim the truth from the mountaintop, because light expels darkness. And God is calling us to proclaim truth and to be bearers of his light, because he is the light of the world. God bless you, Kathy.
God bless you. Praise Jesus. Stick with him. You're my sister in Christ. I'm praying for you.
All right. Please do. I need it. Okay.
All right.
Blessings.
All right.
Bye.